can you just kind of run through what kind of happened? How did this develop? And you just look at me.
Well, it was, I went to, had to go to the hospital for some tests. And I stayed at the St. Patrick House in Missoula. They got me a bus ticket. Oh. And when I got on the bus, me and this gentleman got on the bus together. And
wow. And so I understand you guys were the only two people on the bus?
The only two people other than the driver, yes.
Wow. So you got on the bus. Did you talk to this guy anytime on the bus?
Not at all. Matter of fact, I texted a couple friends of mine and let them know I was on the bus.
Keep going.
I let them know that I was on the bus, and then I fell asleep. Oh. And because I don't have glasses, I couldn't see.
Yeah.
And when we got to Iron Street, I woke up and I started getting myself together. And when we pulled up to the bus stop, the driver of the bus pulled in a different way, and I'm thinking, why is this guy pulling up over here? Uh-huh. And then there was no announcement, no nothing, no anything that went on. The bus driver just took off. He just took off, and I'm like, where's he going? Doesn't he stand at the bus and greet us as we leave? And then all of a sudden this guy, he had some kind of a hat and a pistol inside of it, and he put it in my face and said, sit down or die. And I says, well, I'll sit down, thank you.
What were you thinking going through this ordeal?
Through this whole ordeal, I was thinking that, well, the guy kept telling me, I'm sorry it had to be you. I'm sorry it had to be you. And Sergeant Williams, I do believe, is the guy that was on dispatch that was talking between us. He kept asking me to go home to my wife and my mother, and I explained to the guy that me and my mom and my wife and I were getting a divorce, so I might not even been the best guy.
Wow.
I might not have been the best guy for him to take hostage.
Wow.
And I promised him that I would say what he wanted to be said.
Well, yeah, everybody's saying, why did he do this? What was he wanting? What was he wanting?
He wanted a voice. He wanted to be heard. He wanted to be the white male that's homeless, that nobody gets help, that isn't allowed to get help. He was a conservative looking for a conservative place to go, which is why he chose Montana. And I told him, I said, so you chose Butte to get off in? I said, you should have took Helena or somewhere like that, but not Butte.
So said, he felt disenfranchised somewhere?
Yes, that's a good word for it. He just wanted to be heard. And he wanted somebody to know he was hurting and that he needed help. And at no time did I ever think this guy was a monster. This guy just wanted to be heard.
And it's amazing you say that, because you were telling me he sounded like he was almost like he was going to, did it sound he was going to kill you and him?
He told me we were both going to die today. And the reason he ordered a meal was so that I could have my last meal, because he already ate his. And so he negotiated everything with the officer, Officer Williams. And Officer Williams told him, says, you know, I can't control those guys out down there. And he said, that's a lie. He said, you're the sergeant, you're in charge. If they don't listen to you, it's insubordination. He said, I'm not a dummy. He said, you tell those guys to put the phone, because my phone had ran out of battery. He told them to put the phone in the bag with the food and throw it to the back of the bus. And so me and him moved to the back of the bus, and it reminds me of Dumb and Dumber when they're going up the hill and they froze together. Me and him are going to the back of the bus, and you know, they didn't follow any instruction. And that's when I felt the most scared, because they weren't listening to this guy, they weren't taking him serious. And when we got they said, okay, everything's done. He said, they didn't throw it to the back of the bus, did they, Dameane? Did they? And I'm holding his cell phone, talking to Sergeant Williams with it, and he says, they didn't listen to me. And I said, why didn't you listen? Now we're both going to die. Now we're going to die. And he said, all right, just calm down, Dameane. I'm not going to kill you yet. I said, look, I just got out of the hospital. I need that food. He says, well, let's look for something to reach down and grab it with. So I start going through the front desk, through the front seat, trying to find a pole or something to reach down there with it. And I said, hey, just let me reach down and grab it. And when I started to move forward, our bodies became separated, and I felt that chance, and I spun around and punched him as hard as I could and ran off out of the bus. And I escaped.
So you hit him.
I hit him with everything I had, which wasn't much because, like I said, I'm sick.
Yeah. But
you know.
Enough. I mean, when you made that move, I mean, did you think this was it? This might be your last move?
I thought that I was going to get shot in the back and I was dead. And then when I got off the bus, there's a picture of me with a cigarette hanging out of my mouth. And I'm looking at the officers, and they're pointing their guns at me, screaming to me to get down. And I'm like, I'm not the guy, I'm not the guy. He says, we don't care who the guy is, you get down. And I just got out of the hospital, I'm sick, and they pretty much assaulted me and took me to the ground.
It was a rough.
It was very rough, and I just wanted to get out of there. I talked to, who was it, Detective Sullivan, Dan Sullivan, I think it was. Me and him had our talk. They gave me a cup of coffee, and then they took me to my mom's house, and my mom said, get him out of here. So,
wow.
So I'm homeless, and
how do you feel toward him? What would you say to him right now?
What would I say to him? I said, I would say you should have listened to me, because I promised I'd go talk to them for you. And this is where I'm at. I don't think he's a monster. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think that this guy was really sick. I think he was confused in his head, and unfortunately this is the way he handled it.
Wow. And because, I mean, you were the victim, primary victim of this whole thing. What would, if he's going to go to court, he's charged, what would you think his punishment should be for
what do I think his punishment should be? I think he should be in Warm Springs for an evaluation. I do not think he should get a life term in prison, even though I was so scared, even though I was so fearful. Man, the guy was just doing what he had to do. What he felt he had to do. He felt that was his only option. And I've been there, and I understand. So he did pick the perfect victim, because I understand what he's going through. Nobody would listen. And
you explain this guy, he's homeless. How would you explain your situation? How are you? Why do you think you were a perfect victim for it?
Well, at first, I was like, okay, guy, I'm homeless too. I'm a drug addict, and I've lost everything as well. I said, they don't care if I die. I said, so you picked the wrong guy. He's like, no, I picked the perfect guy, because you'll stand beside me. And yeah, he's somebody that just needs help.
You've been through situations, you said hospital now. Are you were you going through mental?
No, I have artificial heart valves.
Oh gosh.
And about a year ago, they discovered that there was a leak in my valves. And when me and my wife had decided to divorce, unfortunately, I gave up on life, and I started using drugs even heavier. And because of that, because of everything that's going on, there's not enough tissue in there for them to do the operation, so they're going to try to go catheter or something like that, and go up through my groin and try and cap it. Oh. And that's in a couple weeks in Missoula. And
so you got a lot. I mean, you've got this serious medical incident, and then on top of it all, somebody put a gun in your face and said, you're going to die today. Good God.
Yeah.
How do you feel? I mean, I feel bad because it sounds like you're going through a very difficult time right now in your life.
Right, and all.
After this, how do you feel? Like with life in general, how do you?
You know what? I'm so grateful and so thankful to the people of Butte, to Action Inc. and the people that have helped me out. I miss my mom. I wish I could go love on my mom, but unfortunately, you know, I've done what I've done. But I'm grateful to be alive, and I'm grateful that I've had a wife. I'm grateful for even all the prison time I've done. I'm grateful for everything I've been through, and I'm grateful that I'm here talking to you today.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me, and I know this is just. I mean, it's unimaginable.